Welcome back to Global Facts, bringing you the latest news from around the world. I bet you didn't know the World Cup could be ripped away from a country just months before kickoff. Right. Let's talk about football, or as Americans call it, soccer. The World Cup, a global festival of the beautiful game, and for FIFA, a festival of money. This week, FIFA yanked the 2026 World Cup from the US and handed it almost entirely to Canada, just 9 months before kickoff. Imagine planning a massive Texas wedding, then moving it last minute to a small ice rink in Moose Jaw. The US was set to host 78 matches. Now that party's moved north, leaving behind broken contracts and bewildered fans. The world is gobsmacked. The logistics? Nightmarish. With a single press release, FIFA has thrown years of planning into chaos. If a deal this big can be torn up overnight, what does that say about FIFA's promises? So, how did a plan for unity collapse into a continental divorce? Because this isn't just about football, it's about power, politics, and FIFA's staggering arrogance. To understand this fiasco, rewind to 2018. The united bid, USA, Canada, and Mexico, won the rights to host the 2026 World Cup, beating Morocco. It was hailed as North American unity. The plan: America's massive stadiums, Mexico's football passion, Canada's growing love for the game, the biggest, most lucrative World Cup ever. The US would host the lion's share, including the final in New Jersey. Mexico and Canada would get a handful of group matches. The bid promised $14 billion in revenue, $11 billion in profit for FIFA. Infrastructure was already in place, no new stadiums needed. For 7 years, everything seemed on track. Cities were picked, schedules drafted, marketing in overdrive. The 2026 World Cup was to be America's party, a chance to embrace the world's game and shed its football backwater image. The dream-packed stadiums from coast to coast, global fans flocking to LA, Dallas, Miami. It was a vision of unity, prosperity, and football. But this week, that vision was kicked in the teeth. The narrative of 3 nations hosting together has collapsed. The world's biggest sporting event is now a cautionary tale. And the fallout is just beginning. On September 29, 2025, the news broke quietly. An email from FIFA. Update on FIFA World Cup 2026 host venues. The US lost all 78 matches. Canada would now host 84, Mexico kept its 10. The final moved to Vancouver. Hours earlier, millions of fans had secured US tickets, now cancelled. The confusion was global. Imagine sending wedding invites, then hours later saying, "Psych, it's in another country." US soccer was blindsided. President Harris demanded answers. Mayors were furious. Meanwhile, Canada was stunned and elated. Trudeau welcomed the news, but organizers scrambled. Canadian officials faced a 10-fold increase in responsibility with just months to prepare. The world is watching as the dust settles, and the real reasons are only starting to emerge. Why would FIFA detonate its own flagship event months before kickoff? Officially, FIFA cited insurmountable logistical and security challenges in the US. A vague excuse. Dig deeper. The US refused FIFA's demands for blanket tax exemptions and visa-free travel for the entire FIFA family. Disputes over who'd pay for security didn't help. FIFA expects to be treated like a sovereign state. The US treated them like a business partner. That was never going to work. This was a power play. FIFA, used to getting its way, found the US system too complex and unyielding. Instead of negotiating, FIFA went nuclear, sending a message: play by our rules, or you don't play at all. FIFA claims consolidating in Canada will be seamless and secure. In reality, the US has more stadiums, hotels, and experience than any country on Earth. This wasn't about logistics, it was about control. Canada agreed to every demand, the US didn't. FIFA chose compliance over partnership. The fallout in the US is catastrophic. Economically, it's a disaster. 11 host cities lose billions in projected revenue, money that would have flowed into hotels, restaurants, and local businesses. Lawsuits are coming. Cities will sue the US Soccer Federation, which will sue FIFA. A legal battle of epic proportions looms. Politically, it's an embarrassment. The US looks unreliable on the world stage. Critics call it incompetence. The government scrambles to contain the crisis. US soccer's credibility is shattered. Its president, Cindy Parlow-Cone, is caught between a furious public and an immovable FIFA. Socially, the impact is profound. The World Cup was supposed to cement soccer's place in American culture. Now, that momentum is gone. For millions of fans, many with deep ties to the global game, it feels like a personal slight. Small business owners, volunteers, and families who planned their dream World Cup experience are left with nothing. The American dream of hosting the world's biggest party has turned into a public shaming. The beautiful game has left an ugly scar, and the bitterness will linger for years. In Canada, the reaction is a mix of shock, joy, and panic. Canada has gone from bit player to center stage, hosting the entire World Cup, with matches from Toronto to Vancouver. Cities like Montreal and Edmonton, once left out, are now in. The economic and cultural benefits could be immense. Upwards of $8 billion injected into the economy. For Canadian soccer, it's a game changer. The sport's rise will accelerate, inspiring a new generation. Prime Minister Trudeau calls it a moment of national pride. But can Canada pull it off? The country has never hosted an event of this scale. Organizing 84 matches in 5 cities in 9 months is a Herculean task. Infrastructure is the challenge. Enough hotels, airport capacity, stadium readiness. Canada agreed to all of FIFA's demands: tax exemptions, visa-free travel, massive security guarantees. Now, the hard work begins. The next 9 months will be a frantic race to prepare for a party they never expected to host. The world will be watching, and the pressure is on. The economic shockwaves are clear. Winners and losers. The biggest losers? The 11 US host cities. Years of investment, millions spent. Now, nothing. Local businesses, hotels, and airlines face a multi-billion-dollar black hole. The winners? The 5 Canadian cities, Vancouver, Toronto, Montreal, Edmonton, Calgary, now set for an economic windfall. Real estate, tourism, and construction will boom. Broadcasters and sponsors who banked on the US market are scrambling to pivot to Canada's smaller, centralized market. Service companies in US cities, catering, security, transport, have seen contracts vanish overnight. And FIFA? In the short term, it's risky. They've angered their most lucrative market. But long term, they've set a precedent. Their demands are non-negotiable. FIFA traded a more profitable but difficult partner for a compliant one. For an organization obsessed with control, that's a price they're willing to pay. The message to future hosts is clear: comply or be replaced. The ripple effects will be felt for years. The balance of power in world football has shifted, and the fans are left to pick up the pieces. In the middle of this firestorm are the fans, furious, confused, and out of pocket. 4.5 million people bought tickets based on US locations. Now, their plans are in ruins. Non-refundable flights and hotels? Lost. The secondary ticket market? Chaos. The original plan spread 104 matches across 16 cities in 3 countries. Now, 84 matches are crammed into 5 Canadian cities. Accommodation and transportation will be stretched to the limit. Finding a hotel in Vancouver or Toronto will be harder than scoring against Italy. Mexican fans who hope to drive to Houston or LA now face expensive flights to Calgary or Montreal. American fans have lost their one chance to see a World Cup at home. As Maria Jimenez of the American Outlaws put it, this is a slap in the face. FIFA has treated fans like numbers, not people. The new plan is a logistical nightmare. 5 cities will be under siege for a month. The promised seamless North American journey is now a scramble for overpriced flights and hotels. FIFA's boardroom decision has created a real-world mess for the people who matter most. So here we are. The world's biggest sporting event thrown into chaos. Not by disaster, but by FIFA's arrogance. FIFA's decision to strip the US and hand the World Cup to Canada is one of the most shocking moves in modern sport. It prioritizes power and control over partnership, profit, and fans. The US is embarrassed, Canada is panicked, and millions are left scrambling. This is a spectacular own goal. FIFA has shown who holds the real power in football, and it's not the players, federations, or fans. The message hosts are tenants, not partners. Fail to comply, and you're out. The games will go on, But the stain of this decision won't wash away. The World Cup should unite the world. This decision has divided it, and unless the world demands more from FIFA, this ugly game will play out again and again.